Guys, I don't think anyone could have told me that in 2020 I would be reviewing a Sony Xperia phone. Yo, what's going on people? It's Tech Jamo. If it's your first time on the channel, thanks for joining us. Make sure you hit that subscribe, hit the like and hit that notification bell so you can be with us for all our future videos. Now, Sony Xperia 5 Mark II. First of all, Sony, sort out the naming situation of your flagship phones. That's a mad thing. What is that mouthful? Now, when I first picked up this device, I heard that it was the phone for content creators, literally because of how they've worked out the camera apps on this phone. It has 3 camera apps. Let's talk about design. First of all, as you can see, it's bare fingerprinty. I even tried to wipe off the fingerprints because every time I do, the fingerprints just jump back on as soon as I touch the phone. But I do like this design. It's the normal candy bar design that I've seen literally since I had a Sony phone in college. I think it was the Sony Xperia Z3 or the Z3 Play or the Z3 Compact. Z3 Compact. Now you got glass on the front and you got glass on the back, so it's got that real premium feel to it. But obviously, as I said before, that causes fingerprints. And it's also hella slippery. Damn, like literally as soon as I got this phone, I made a conscious decision that I was not gonna go outside with this phone because I knew it would slip and break within seconds. Now, button-wise, on the right-hand side of the phone, we've got your volume rocker. We've got a power button, which also doubles as a fingerprint sensor, which I have to say is my preference when it comes to putting a fingerprint sensor on the phone. It's nice and easily accessible and it works very quickly. It's also got 2 more buttons on the right hand side. A Google Assistant button, which is literally a 1 tap press for getting the Google Assistant, and you've got a 2-stage shutter button, so you can squeeze it to focus and click it all the way down to take that picture or start recording. I love Sony phones for doing that. I think I've seen LG do it at one point, but as far as I know, Sony have done that consistently. Now on the left side of the phone, it's pretty much flush, but we do have this SIM card and SD card tray. What's weird about this one is that there's no SIM pinhole. You can literally pull it out at any time, and I think this is to easier facilitate the fact that you can drag the memory card out, slap it into a computer, take off all the pictures and videos that you need, and then slap it back into the phone very quickly, and it still retains its waterproof rating somehow, even though it's got that fast access SIM tray. But it also does mean that if somebody steals your phone, it's easier for them to just drag your SIM card out and keep it moving. So yeah, have to bear that in mind. On the bottom of the phone now, you've just got the USB-C port, nothing going on down there. On the top of the phone now, you've got a headphone jack, fam. Headphone jack, you know, mad thing. 2020 headphone jack. Now, as you can see, we've got a nice 6.1 inch OLED display. It's a 21:9 ratio, which as you can see, makes it a very tall phone. Even though it is compact, it is still hard to get that stretch up to the top of the notifications bar and bring that down. But you can drag from anywhere on the screen to bring the notifications bar down anyway, so that's a plus. Also, the screen is 120 Hertz and it is complemented with dual front-facing speakers, fam. That's a feat that I've only ever achieved on the Razer Phone 2, the ROG Phone 2, and the Huawei Mate 20X, which was like, yo, that was a big phone with big beefy speakers. It was out here for the content consumption, fam, and that's what this phone is here for as well. Now let's talk about performance. We've got a Snapdragon 865 in here, 8GB of RAM, and that's only one side of the story. Those are just specs. Like, we actually need to know how does the phone perform, and it performs very well. One of the issues for me when I've had smartphones from Sony in the past was that they always used to overheat. And I think that was back when they had the Snapdragon 801 chipset. Now this Chipset, it's doing pretty well. It's not overheating at all. I usually keep it on 120 hertz and it's running fine, as you know, as you would expect. And that's not much of an achievement for me, for example, because I've had phones with lesser chipsets, such as the Snapdragon 765 in the OnePlus Nord, and they've been equally as snappy. So yeah, it's to be expected, but just to let you guys know, look, it's flawless. Go into Instagram, boom. Go into Twitter, check that, boom. Come out of that, go into Facebook, boom. You know, see, it's instantly. Let me double press this for the camera. Camera comes up and you know, it's ready to go. So yeah, definitely very snappy for everyday use and even for a little light touch of video editing perhaps. And let's not forget gaming. Now the gaming performance is really tight on this phone. Like, you know, as you would expect from a Snapdragon 865, everything is fluid. You can use max details on most games, Call of Duty, and this one works with controllers obviously, so you can put a little external controller on it. And to be honest, even Sony themselves advertise this in conjunction with a PS4 controller mount for some gaming time. It's even compatible with cloud gaming, so you can use your Google Stadias, xClouds, PlayStation Now, all them services, GeForce Now, use them in it. Now, as for software, this is basically stock Android. I love a little bit of stock Android, nice and clean. You can usually only get it from the Google Pixel, but now OnePlus, Sony, Samsung, they're all trying to make this extremely clean Google Pixel-like stock software. But on this, everything is pretty much streamlined. You know, you go up, you got your apps down there, you come down, you go to the left, you've got your Google News and stuff like that. It's a pretty much stock Android experience. And that's what I love about it. Now, in terms of storage, I believe you've got two possible configurations. You've got the 128GB and you've got the 256. But both of those configurations can take an external SD card, which you can't mount as internal SD cards. Remember that. Now, the battery, Sony has always been battery champions. They've always had these extreme power saving modes, which just immediately save battery like that. And this phone is no different. It's got a 4000 milliamp battery, which isn't really the largest battery nowadays, but it's definitely way over acceptable, especially when you consider the fact that the screen is only 6.1. Now, it does have the 120 hertz, which does suck the battery extra quickly, but that can be dialed back down to 60 hertz to save you some juice. In terms of screen on time, I tend to get 6.5 to 7 hours screen on time with this, so that's quite heavy usage for me, and that's filming, that's 60 hertz by the way. So that's filming, doing a little bit of video editing, social media, and just stuff like that. If I'm on 120 hertz, it's more or less 5 hours to 5 hours and a half of on screen time, which still isn't bad. That's pretty respectable in my opinion. All right, so the bit you guys have been waiting for, let's talk about the cameras. Now let's get out the way the mediocre stuff. The 8 megapixel camera on the front, yeah, whatever, it's there. It does 1080p 30 frames per second maximum, whatever, cool. We've got a wide, an ultra wide, and we've also got a telephoto. So we've got the holy trinity of cameras essentially. And what I've noticed about these cameras is that the ultra wide seems to match the quality of the main 12 megapixel normal wide camera, which isn't something you usually see on smartphones. Usually the ultra wide is a lot worse in low light conditions, but this ultra wide actually has autofocus, and the pictures that come out of it are not too bad when you're using the Photo Pro app. Now there are 3 apps on this phone. There's the Cinema Pro app, the Photo Pro app, and then there's the normal camera app. Now the normal camera app is the best app for beginners or people that don't really care about having a lot of control over their camera. You just point and you shoot, and that's it. If you ask me personally, where I feel the stock camera loses out is in its autofocus department. It just seems to not be able to recognize when objects are in front of it. And I'm really confused as to why this is, as when you go into the Photo Pro app, you can still use autofocus and set it on automatic, and the autofocus will be really on point. And I don't know why it works so well in the Photo Pro app, but then the autofocus in the normal camera app is so rubbish. It's just confusing. The photo mode on the stock app can go up to 12 megapixel at a 4:3 ratio. Now, going to video mode on the stock app, you can shoot up to 4K at 30 frames per second, or you can do full HD at 60 frames per second, but you cannot do 4K at 60 frames per second using the stock camera app. However, if you do go on to the Cinema Pro app, you do have the ability to shoot 4K and 2K at 60 frames per second. In fact, you also have the ability to shoot 4K at 120 frames per second and have it slowed down to 60 frames per second. But anyway, guys, I'm not going to go too deep into the camera situation. It is a really good camera. It is brilliant for content influencers, but I think this phone on its own is not really good for content creators. You need to have a lot of accessories and stuff with the phone, which I'm definitely going to get into on a newer video. But for now, yeah guys, I really like the phone. I love the size of it. The size is really good. I love the side mounted fingerprint sensor, all the buttons, and the dedicated camera button is really good. I do love the Pro and Cinema camera apps. Like, they're just, yeah, they're legit, fam. Like, you can do a lot with them if you want to take the time and get some more accessories for shooting dedicated footage with your phone. But just in terms of it being a generally good phone, it's also brilliant. However, I don't know if I would recommend this to someone that wasn't a content creator, because I feel like the Camera Pro and the Cinema Pro apps just tend to be a little bit intimidating if you haven't really been used to a normal camera's interface. But that's just what I think. It's only been, what, 3 weeks for me with this phone. Hopefully I'll do another 3-month review with this phone, a little bit more of a long-term review. Thanks for watching. If this helped, leave a comment in the comment section below, and I'll catch you guys in the next one. Bless.